Here we go, everybody. This is the new build series we're starting here at Built by Blocker. Welcome back to the channel. We're here at my shop, Blocker Racing Incorporated. As you can see, we got my bracket car here. This is going to be the new build series called 25-2 No Prep Camaro. And the whole point of this car is we're going to take this bracket car that's outdated, almost a 70-year-old stock chassis, and we're going to turn it into a 6-second certified no prep monster. And the point of this build series is to give the average Joe some material, some information, some little instruction on how they can build their own car. I want to put enough information out through this build series where the average person should be able to watch enough of my videos and could do a complete chassis or a back half or take it as far as they want to and feel comfortable and know the things they need to know, the measurements they need to take to know that in the end they'll have a decent product. We're going to get you familiar with the car. In today's episode, we're pretty much just going to be, it's going to be tear down. We're going to get the front end off. We're going to get the motor out. We're going to get the floors cut out. But want to get you familiar with the car so you can kind of see where we were at, and then you'll know where we're going to finish. So check it out. We got a conventional small block Chevrolet that's in this car. It's a 416 cubic inch tunnel ram, 2 Hollies. The kit's off of it, but we run a Nitrous Express dual plate system, 600 shot capable, Maximizer 5 progressive controller. The car itself is a unibody car, and we don't even have subframe connectors in this car. We'll go to the inside to take a peek. The only thing holding the unibody together is the 8-point cage. There's no subframe connectors. It's factory frame. We're running leaf spring, rear suspension, air shocks on this car because I'm trying to fit a 31-inch tall, 13-inch wide tire on it. As you can see, they don't quite fit underneath the fender. We're running slapper bars. This is an outdated chassis. The floor in this car is all 16-gauge sheet metal. Just kind of put together at the time. I would like to think that this is a car where most people would start from. There's nothing special. There's nothing here we're keeping. The only thing that we're keeping on this car to be within regulations on most of what we're going to run, because we're going to run all your no prep, all your pour your own puddle events, and really we're going to get out there and run with whoever will line up. It doesn't matter what you got. But the only thing left of what you see here is going to be the steel roof, steel quarters. All right, it's going to be, that's it. Everything else, it's going to be carbon fiber, it's going to be aluminum. From what you're looking at now, this and this is all that's going to be left. So I don't want you to think that we're starting from a place where you're not starting from. This is going to be from the ground up. And we look forward to y'all coming with us, man, and checking out some of the work. And after watching this video, if somebody gets in a car that they built because they saw one of my videos, then we're winning, man. We want to keep the sport alive. We want to keep drag racing and the car culture going, because that's really important for the next generation, man. Keeping them. You get your kid into racing cars, and he'll never have a drug problem because he'll be broke. You know what I'm saying? Roll with it. All right. I'm not going to get too in depth on the tear down. It's going to be kind of time lapsed. This will be one of the only things that's going to be time lapsed, but I feel like there's no need for me to tell you how to take 4 bolts out to pull some fenders or pull the motor. Of course, we're going to pull the motor mounts, take drive shaft out, transmission mount, and then the way this set up, I can pull the tranny and the motor all out at one time. The plans from here, we're going to get the motor yanked, obviously the core support radiator out of here. We're going to cut the cage out of it. We're going to get the seats out of it. We're going to get all the Lexan, the trunk. We're going to get it ready to start cutting the floors out, and that's where we're at right now. So we're going to set that off to the side. The next phase, we're going to go ahead and get inside the car. We'll get the cage cut out, get the seats out of it, shifter, tack, get that steering column because it's got the quick connect on there. All we got left is that, the fuel cell, fuel pump in the trunk, and then we'll have a pretty clear platform, and we'll be ready to start cutting some floor and trunk out of it, and one step closer to the chassis jig. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get the Lexan out. You can see I've got some of them out. This is a Clearview Windows kit from Jegs. Clearview is the company name. I'm not even sure that they have these anymore, but they're basically oversized sheets pre-cut for your whatever you're building, Camaro, whatever. As you can see, I've got a few up here that have rusted and seized up, so I'm drilling these out. But I wanted to go ahead and show you while we're here. You can see on my roof line all this cancer that's here. A lot of this you can see here and here. This was all rotted out when I built this car originally back in 2002. I laid a sheet of fiberglass in there and molded it around, sanded the roof line, and let it ride. As you can see, over the years with vibration and being in the weather, hasn't been taken the best care of. It's messed up again. It's time to be fixed. When we fix it this time, we're gonna go ahead and sheet metal and get it repaired correctly the way it needs to be. The way this fastened in, it was just pretty much some self-tappers and then some countersink washers to make it look nice. It comes with a strip of sealing tape, and then to make the trick with Lexan to make it look super nice is you paint the inside. So you will tape it off and you will paint a black stripe around, and that way you don't, it just looks more clean cut on the edges. It just looks better. So that's something everybody does. You do not want, as you can see, there's the black stripe, and you got to think this was done 15 years ago or so, and I'm sure when I was 14 and I did this, I probably didn't prep the Lexan or wipe it with alcohol, but it's lasted all right. And see some of the fiberglass work. It's gonna need a lot of work, but where we're lucky is all this is gone. This firewall, this the only thing I'm saving is that VIN tag. All this stuff's gotta go. Getting the trunk off. I had to come back here and supervise. I got my shop chicken right here, just hanging out. You know, he likes to stay in the middle of the action. He's really, he's crew chief. You know, Vanilla plays a very important role in my racing program. So he doesn't like any work being done on the car unless he's there to approve it. It's a brand new trunk. Anybody looking for a trunk and spoiler, holler at me. I'm gonna put it up on Marketplace. This one will be replaced with carbon fiber. It's one of the few little pieces I can afford to do in carbon fiber. It does turn it into a $1,000 trunk. Well, most people, these seats were mounted with angle iron and welded to this fucking 16 gauge, excuse my language, to this 16 gauge sheet metal. I guess we were thinking we were gonna make a tank before we decided to turn it to a race car. But most of you will have seat brackets that are bolted or, you know, are mounted a different way. These were permanent and welded. Hence all the grinding. But they're coming out. This seat's coming, then we're gonna start cutting the cage, and then we have successfully took a car that could go make an 8th mile pass an hour and a half ago to a shell that's ready to have the floor cut and get on the chassis jig. So good progress, you know, for an afternoon. Not bad. Alright, we're about to cut the cage out. As you can see, this is, like I was telling you earlier, this is a unibody car. In case you don't know, that means you've got a subframe in the front, a subframe in the rear, and the body connects those. So the body is part of the chassis. Alright, there's plenty of unibody cars. Throughout this build process, I'm going to explain things. This is just teardown video. It's not real, you know, detailed or nothing. Your car isn't my car, so if you can't figure out how to tear your car down to a shell, you might want to call a buddy. You could be in over your head, you know. This is a unibody car. So like I was telling you earlier, this car doesn't have subframe connectors, meaning there is not a piece of metal tubing that connects the rear subframe to the front subframe. So this is like it left the factory in 1969. The body is bolted to the front subframe, the rear subframe, and that leaves a lot of flex, a lot of twist. So we've got an 8-point cage in here. This 8-point cage touches down up front with these pads, in the rear with these pads, and then up there. These are all spots that the chassis, the frame, is connected to the body. So that's what stiffens this car. It needs subframe connectors, it never had them. All right, so we're about to cut this cage out. It's easier with a bandsaw, sawzall, cut-off wheel on a grinder. You can do a lot with not a lot of tools, but bandsaw would be the fastest, easiest way. We want to cut the cage out. It's easier just to cut. You want to get it as close to the ground as you can. The more you get cut with this blade, the less you got to grind off or cut around, whatever. So we're going to start cutting it out. When it's over with, every pad where these pipes touch down, you're going to want it as close to that pad. You want to cut it as close to the floor as possible. Less stuff to deal with in the end. So we're going to get to it, and after this, it's time to start cutting some of the floor and everything else out. We're about ready to get on the chassis jig. So. Cage is out. All right, as you can see, stubs got to be cut. We're going to end the video right here. Car's tore down. We're going to pick back up, cutting the floors out, and then I'm going to go over, show you the chassis jig that I made and how you can save a bunch of money building one yourself. You can build it to you the way you want it, what works best for you. Cut the floors, go over the chassis jig, and get this thing squared up on the jig and locked in and ready to start the build. I'm really excited. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Blocker Racing, Built by Blocker YouTube channel. We're small, we're just starting. Stick with me, it's going to get better. But the main thing I'm worried about is information. Before I started this build and wanted to document it on YouTube, I looked, and there's really nowhere to show you what I plan on showing you. There's nobody, a lot of time lapse. Watching somebody build a car in fast forward doesn't work. It doesn't show you anything. It just shows you what they did. But I'm trying to help you build your car. So, like I said, you guys just saw it. We went from a car that could make an undisclosed second pass in the 8th mile to this in 3 hours, and that wasn't even really pushing it. You know what I mean? We've totally stripped this down. So that's kind of where we're at, guys. Like I said, I appreciate it, and you guys stick with me, and we'll be back. I'm going to try to put out a video every week, if not every other week. It's harder than I thought it would be to get footage and the time to do it and everything, but we're gonna make it happen, and I'll see you guys on the other side.